First though, all the way from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Adam Carruthers, the face of the Barclays Premier League for Astro SuperSport, joins us live on Skype. Adam, how's things?
It's very late here in Malaysia, it's about 2 a.m. But it's okay, you get used to it if you're following the Premiership, so it's quite all right.
Well, thank you very much for staying up. I know it is late. The Premier League in Malaysia, how big exactly is it?
I don't even know where to start, to be honest. It is by far the biggest league here in Malaysia, even though it's not in the country. The domestic league pales in comparison, to be honest. The only thing which could compare would be when the national team does well, which sadly right now it's a bit in the doldrums, and hopefully it will pick up. But the Premiership, it's a monster. It's an absolute monster. I believe that there were about 30,000 fans who came to watch Liverpool train when they were down here for a pre-season tour, and also for Chelsea. That's not the match itself, which was a full house. It was just the training, 30 to 40,000 people just for that.
That's big numbers. Who are the biggest supported sides?
Well, still Manchester United, though obviously what's happening right now, we've seen more Manchester City jerseys coming out, we've seen more Chelsea jerseys coming out, and Arsenal as well. I would say the traditional top 4, top 5 that we see in the Premiership would correspond directly here. It's, even though a couple of the clubs who were in the Premiership or are in the Premiership are Malaysia-owned, Cardiff obviously in the Championship right now, QPR in the Premiership right now, they still pale compared to the big guns in the Premiership.
I'm interested in that, Adam, in terms of the clubs that do have some kind of ownership Malaysia-related. How much of a difference is it making in terms of those clubs becoming better known out there?
Well, there's a lot of grassroots work being done. I mean, from the commercial side of the AirAsia Airlines, obviously it's a Malaysian company initially, so they've got the QPR planes, etc. You see the branding when you go to the airport. AirAsia has effectively their own terminal. They have about 80–90% of the traffic there, so it's everywhere. But for Cardiff, they took it to another level. They set up some real grassroots football training. They flew out some of the coaches, some of the guys who were heavily involved in the setup at Cardiff were flown out here and set up schools across the entire country, which is a great initiative, I think. And they take it in turns to be here. And, well, they've been very, very actively involved. When Malcolm Mackay was still the manager, he actually flew out here. He did the whole press rounds, and this was actually between games. So it was a game on a Saturday. He flew out, he came back just in time for the next match.
Who are the big names on the back of the shirts? Whose name do they all have on the back of the shirts?
Oh, for Manchester United, it would be the likes of Van Persie, it would be the likes of Rooney. For Chelsea, it was Lampard, and Torres as well. But it kind of varies. I don't see too many Chelsea names in the back currently, but I'm sure the likes of Diego Costa or Cesc Fabregas will be coming up very, very soon indeed.
And your team is... who do you follow? Who do you support?
Personally, I follow Tottenham, Tottenham Hotspur, but I have to remain impartial. But in terms of the scope that we do our work, we've had the opportunity to bring a lot of former professionals down, which is an absolute pleasure. We just had Ledley King down, along with Ozzy Ardiles. We've worked a lot with Darren Anderton on our shows. Ian Walker, who's based in China, also popped down. So it's been a real pleasure, a real honour, and it allows me to just, you know, probe exactly what's going on in their minds, etc. So, real pleasure.
Have you got a duck in there with you?
No, there's someone who's trying to call me. I think someone's watching.
Are they not watching the programme, Adam?
Someone is right now trying to contact me. I do apologise for that.
So your job is at SuperSport, Astro SuperSport.
Yes.
How do you prepare them for a big weekend of football?
See, the difference between you and I, you're a presenter, but you've had professional experience. I have not. So I'm not allowed to give an opinion on a show. Well, in my opinion, I'm not allowed to in any case. So I tend to mask everything in facts and figure. It could be something extremely general. It could be a team that's never won at a certain ground in the past 10 fixtures, or it could be something very, very technical, specific to that game, say a heat map based on Alexis Sanchez for Arsenal against Manchester United or something. So I use that to give my opinion, whereas the pundits in the studio, and we have an in-house pundit, his name is Abbasad, who played for Australia, he played around the region as well, along with incoming guests. We've got Tony Pulis coming in, we've just had Mike Phelan down as well. They can give valid opinion, which can be appreciated by the viewers. And I'm just a voice. That's all I am. I'm just a voice to try and give an opinion of what's being said out there.
And how does your weekend work then? So how many games will you cover over the course of a weekend?
For the channel, usually we have 3 games on a Saturday, so we have exclusively the first game. On our channel, we actually have 8 of the 10 games on a weekend. That obviously includes the Monday. And we share it with one of our sister companies down in Singapore. But it's all in the same satellite network because we just don't have enough studios to do all the games. But I will personally do up to 4 or 5 games a weekend.
And when you're preparing for those, I guess the statistics are always a presenter's best friend. Do you find that the fans out there are getting more and more knowledgeable as well? So you have to come up with even better stats all the time?
You constantly try to do so, yes. But you also, I mean, it's very different how you prepare for the halftime show and the post-show as opposed to the pre-show when nothing has actually happened yet. So it's just getting all your facts and figures. The Premier League TV is also, it's a great source of information just by watching it. Obviously, we get the show out in Malaysia as well. And all the facts and figures provided by Premier League TV as well, stat packs, etc. The internet obviously is a great resource. Just make sure it's verified information that you're giving, otherwise you might look like a fool. But apart from that, it works really well. And then as the game is progressing, you tend to listen to what the pundits are saying, just to try and pick up points that you could use on the show, points they feel strongly about, and points which I, as a casual fan, or more than a fan, would not be able to see because I've never been through professional training. I can't read a game like someone who has.
Adam, our question of the day is about video technology. Sepp Blatter wants to bring video technology, or at least trial it anyway. Would you think it would work and do you think it would work in the Premier League as well?
Well, honestly, it's a question you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, to be honest. That's what it comes down to. There will be people who always say, okay, it works in this sport, it works in rugby, it works in tennis, it works in cricket. At the time, before it got implemented in those sports, there were a lot of naysayers, but now we treat it as something as part of the game. But at the same time, is it taking away the essence of football? I mean, what about the chat in the pubs, over coffee, over dinner, at the water cooler? I mean, if you take away the element of error in a game, now there's goal line technology there, so there's no debates on that aspect. There's now vanishing spray. It's a very, very slippery slope, so it has to be treaded incredibly carefully. But it'll certainly make things interesting. It'll certainly bring it, I think, to the 21st century.
It might surprise you to hear that Graham Poll, one of the former referees, has been talking about this, and he thinks it's a great idea. He thinks that, you know, it would really help the referees, that fans often can see things on television, that the only person in the ground who doesn't know what's happened can be the referee, and it means that, you know, they get a lot of abuse a lot of the time. So he was very interested in all of this and thinks that it really would help and like you said, bring the game into the, you know, into a new century. And a lot of other sports use it as well, don't they? So it makes a big difference to the television coverage, which obviously you're involved with.
It does, and also the issues of accountability. I mean, we've had referees come out here for various seminars, etc., and it's accountability. I mean, when you finish a match, you'll hear from the managers and you'll hear from the players, etc., but you never hear from the referee. It's always the association that speaks on behalf of the referee. So I think an element of accountability for every aspect of the game should be incorporated, and perhaps this will allow it to be accountable on some level at least. It's a start, nonetheless.
Carthy, you've got some emails on this as well.
Mixed reaction to this, I have to say. Some strong views as well. This is from Victor in Nigeria, who's a Chelsea fan. He says, totally disagree with the TV technology idea. It will cause lots of upset with the game and no beauty within it. It will slow the game down, totally reduce the tempo, cause a lot of arguments between the ref. It's going to be a delaying tactic that winning teams can use. And he says, coaches, this is in capital letters at the end, coaches should never be given a chance to argue with the referee. It makes the referee worthless. So very strong views there from Victor. Derek in South Africa says, I think video should be used. It will stop all the diving of the players. If you're caught diving, then trying to con the referee, you'll get no appeal at all. Just get rid of the diving by having the video referee idea. And it's a bit tricky, says Mafieka from South Africa. It will completely disrupt the game. Imagine the handball and the referee has to stop and everything stops with the attack. It should not be allowed. It's not cricket. Soccer is a fast sport and we can't afford to have 2 or 3 minutes for a review team. I mean, if you look at rugby and the NFL, well, the NFL's maybe not a great sport to look at because the games are so long in the end. But if you look at something like rugby, it is done very quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will be this idea of stopping for 2 or 3 minutes. I think when you look at the technology, it won't be like the slow hand clapping in tennis, which does take 30 seconds. I think it will be done a lot more quickly if they do it.
I think that's the key, isn't it, Adam, that this technology, it's not something that we want to see a Premier League game go on for, say, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. We want it done, because part of the beauty of the Premier League is that the games are 90 minutes and they're very quick and fast. So we want these decisions to be made very quickly.
Of course, I mean, it's a free-flowing game. That's why we do love football. So the fact that they can only give X amount of challenges per half, I think will help to aid that as well. But I was just thinking, off the top of my head, I mean, it can also protect the players. I mean, I think defenders and maybe some defensive midfielders may have to be a bit more cautious of some of their tackles or off-the-ball incidents, because it can be brought back. It can be held accountable within the game. Obviously, punishments given out to players can only be, in hindsight, if the referee actually spots something. So it can help certain players, I believe, and I'm sure defenders will be a little bit more wary of their tackles, etc.
Adam, last point to you. I just want to come and talk to you actually about the Premier League in general. Who do you see winning the title this season?
That's a very, very hard call. I think it's just going to come down to either Man City or Chelsea, perhaps Chelsea to edge it slightly. I mean, they really rectified whatever issues they had last season. Obviously, Costa seems to pick up an injury again. You've got to wonder how fully recovered is he from what we saw towards the tail end of last season when he was still over in Spain. But the two best squads in the league, and it's absolutely astounding to see who's going to come out tops at the end of the season. It really, I think, will go right down to the wire. It's also going to be interesting to see how Liverpool do. I mean, they're going to be stretched. They only played just over 40 games last season, as opposed to teams like United and City and Chelsea playing closer to 60 games or more last season. Do they have the depth? I mean, they won't have a week to prepare for the game. They'll only have 2-3 days this time around. A real test for Brendan Rodgers as well. And for Manchester United, will they pull up a surprise? I mean, aiming for the top 4, the amount of money they've spent, is that good enough?
We shall see. Adam, it's great for you to join us. Thanks for staying up. You can go to bed now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Adam. Adam Carruthers there of Astro SuperSport.